Have you ever wondered if the language we use at work, actually affects how much we get done?
Interesting question.
Today's deep dive, we're going to Scotland
Okay.
to look at this push to revitalize Scots, but in a really interesting place, the
And
workplace.
and it's more than just, like understanding a memo written in Scots, right? It
Yeah.
goes way beyond. It gets to something much deeper, cultural identity, and how that all plays out in a modern workplace.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So you're interested in languages and how they impact our culture. And so we've gathered some really cool stuff from our news. It's this news and media startup, and they have this really unique thing. They do everything in Scots.
Really?
It's wild.
Wow.
Imagine BBC News, but it's all completely in Scots. And they
Wow.
represent all the different dialects, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, that's really important, representing those dialects. And, our news's whole mission is a big part of this whole conversation, right?
Mm.
They're really advocating for the right of Scots speakers
Yeah.
to actually live their lives in their native language.
Yeah.
Not just speak it at home, but to really have it be a part of their everyday experience.
Yeah.
And to make sure that Scots is accessible to everyone, which is huge.
It's almost like legitimizing it in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Giving it that recognition and validation.
And there was this one article in particular that really caught our eye, Scots in e-workplace. They asked this really interesting question. Could speaking Scots at work actually make people more productive, more engaged with their work?
That is a fascinating question. And, it has wider implications than you might think, especially now that Scotland is considering legally recognizing Scots alongside Gaelic.
Oh, wow.
Imagine if, Scots was used in everyday business, meetings, emails,
That would be a huge shift. I can already see the benefits for creating a more inclusive work environment, especially for native Scots speakers.
absolutely. And there's actually quite a bit of research on multilingual workplaces in general that really supports this idea.
Really?
Now, while studies specifically on Scots are, a little more limited, the broader research, it shows some really promising results. For example, there's evidence that fostering strong language skills in the workplace, no matter the language, can lead to stronger connections between colleagues, increased empathy, just a greater sense of trust and camaraderie.
It's like you're unlocking this hidden potential just by allowing people to use the languages they're most comfortable with. It's really cool.
Exactly. And our news actually quoted a linguistics expert on this, Dr. Angus MacLeod from the University of Edinburgh. And he said, and I quote, "Lied is mair than just a tool for communication. It's a brig to our cultural identity. A why for tens express nuances at might be lost in our setting."
Wow. Powerful, right?
Yeah, that's a really beautiful quote.
It is.
And it kind of emphasizes what we've been talking about, how language is so deeply tied to who we are, our cultural identity.
It's a part of us. It's not just a tool.
Exactly. So, imagine the impact on a workplace when you allow employees to truly be themselves.
Right. To express themselves authentically in their own language. Could that be the key to fostering this really strong sense of belonging?
It's an interesting thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it actually ties in really well with what the Scottish government is calling fair work practices.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
So for those who aren't familiar, fair work is all about creating more inclusive work environments where everyone feels, valued and respected.
Right, which makes total sense. Everyone wants to feel like they belong, right?
Absolutely.
So if you add in the element of language, specifically Scots in this case,
Mhm.
could that amplify those positive effects?
It's a really interesting question. I mean, think about it. Imagine a workplace where on top of fair pay, good working conditions, you also have the freedom to speak Scots.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean a few words here and there, but truly be yourself, using a fundamental part of your heritage without having to constantly code switch
Right.
or suppress a part of who you are. That's powerful.
It really is. And actually, our news, they interviewed a workplace culture consultant, Sarah Campbell, and she pointed out that companies who are already prioritizing these fair work principles, they're seeing a difference.
Yeah.
They're seeing a difference in employee engagement. They're even seeing it in productivity.
That's huge. Engagement, productivity, those are some pretty big wins.
Exactly. So imagine if you add the cultural richness and the inclusivity of incorporating Scots, could you see even greater improvement?
It's like this untapped potential just waiting to be released. But of course, the big question that I think is on everyone's mind is, does using Scots actually boost productivity?
Right.
Or is it, just a nice idea?
Because at the end of the day, businesses need to see like those tangible
And you can
results.
see the bottom line, right?
Right.
And to be fair, we haven't actually found any research that directly connects Scots to increased productivity, at least not yet.
Yeah, that's true. It's still kind of early days for this kind of research.
Exactly. But maybe that's what makes this whole conversation so interesting, right? We're like at the very beginning of something potentially like really groundbreaking.
And just because we don't have the evidence yet doesn't mean the potential isn't huge. There's still so much we don't know.
It's exactly. We need to look at the bigger picture here. Let's consider what we do know about employee engagement and what drives it. Like, if you think about it, Scottish Enterprise, that's Scotland's National Economic Development Agency, they really emphasize the importance of innovative workplaces for boosting productivity.
Which makes sense, right?
Right.
You want people to be excited about where they work.
And one thing they consistently highlight is this link between employee engagement and, you guessed it, productivity.
It makes total sense. Happier employees are more productive, right?
Right. It's kind of a no-brainer when you think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And if using Scots, if that contributes to that feeling of, hey, I belong here, that sense of engagement, well, the potential impact on productivity, it could be huge.
Yeah.
And or news. They actually interviewed John McKenzie from Scottish Enterprise. And he kind of put it perfectly. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, he said something like, if using Scots can help employees feel more comfortable, more authentically themselves at work, it stands to reason that we could see a real positive impact on our nation's productivity.
It's such a simple idea, but it's so true. And it makes you think, like, what are we missing out on by not embracing like full richness of language and culture in the workplace?
It's a good question.
And I mean, it can't just be about productivity, right? Like, what other benefits might we see, if businesses are willing to give this a try?
You're absolutely right. I mean, this goes way beyond just like, getting more widgets out the door.
Yeah.
Right. Our news highlighted several potential advantages for companies who are, incorporating Scots. Like, for one, it's a really powerful way to like cultivate a more inclusive and culturally authentic work environment.
Totally.
And not just for Scots speakers, but for everyone. It says this really strong message. It says, we value you. We respect your heritage.
And think about what that could mean for teamwork, for collaboration, especially like amongst Scots-speaking colleagues. Like, they could connect on this whole other level, right?
Absolutely.
Share ideas more freely, maybe even unlock new levels of creativity because they're not limited by, having to translate their thoughts into another language.
You're removing a barrier, right? You're allowing their creativity to really flourish.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the impact on employee well-being, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people feel seen, when they feel heard for who they truly are, it can do wonders for their morale, for their overall job satisfaction.
For sure. It's all connected, right? Like, it's bigger than just,
The holistic thing.
Yeah, exactly. It ties into this much bigger picture, don't you think? When businesses embrace Scots, they're not just like, changing their internal culture. They're actually becoming part of this movement to preserve and promote Scotland's linguistic heritage.
Absolutely. It's almost like a form of corporate social responsibility, right?
Right.
They're giving back.
And not to mention, think about the potential marketing edge, especially within Scotland.
For sure.
Right. Imagine being known as the company that, like, not only values diversity, but, like, celebrates it, by embracing that local language. That's huge. Like, that could really resonate with customers and clients.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win on so many levels. But we do have to, acknowledge there's a long road ahead before we see, like, widespread use of Scots in the workplace. I mean, it's not something that you can change overnight, right?
Right. There are always challenges,
Yeah.
right? Like resistance to change. But the potential rewards are huge. And that's what I find so fascinating about this whole, deep dive is the power of challenging our assumptions.
I agree. It's so easy to, like, get stuck in our ways.
Totally.
But, that's how we stifle innovation.
We get so set in our ways, like, this is how it's done in a professional setting, And we might be missing out on some really cool ideas because of it.
Right. It's like we're almost afraid to kind of, like, color outside the lines.
Yeah, and to be honest, what's more outside the lines than saying, okay, let's take this language that some people might see as informal, like not really a workplace language.
Right, right.
And let's bring it into the corporate world. Like, that's kind of a radical idea, isn't it?
It is. And It's all about asking that question, what if? Like, what if embracing those cultural and linguistic differences, what if that's actually the key to unlocking, a whole new level of engagement, of productivity, even innovation? Like, it's
Uh,
exciting. It's an exciting thought.
It really is. And this whole deep dive into Scots, it really got me thinking this isn't just relevant to like businesses in Scotland, is it?
No, not at all.
Like this idea has like global
Oh,
implications.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's bigger than just Scots. This is about, this whole conversation. It's highlighted the power of language
Mm,
and how deeply connected it is to who we are.
for sure. Yeah.
Like if embracing Scots can have this like profound impact in Scotland,
Yeah.
just imagine what could happen if we explore this idea with other minority languages in workplaces all over the world.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it,
Yeah.
like the possibilities are endless. So like as you go about your day to day, I want to challenge you, the listener, to consider this. What if the key to building like a better workplace,
Mhm.
one that's more engaging, more productive, one that's more innovative? What if it's not about finding some like crazy new productivity hack or some new management strategy? What if it's simply about creating spaces where people feel like truly seen and heard, where they feel respected for who they are, liquid and all? Like
Yeah.
that's something to think about.
It really is. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. It's been such a pleasure, like, exploring this topic with you. Until next time.